Why is it that Detroit fans don't like Ben Johnson? What is it about Ben Johnson that Detroit fans do not like, and they have the hate and the angst and want to beat him down? Amon-Ra talk about when they come in here, they're going to boo BTA, belt to you know what. But they don't have that same angst for Aaron Glenn. They don't have that same feelings for Aaron Glenn. If Aaron Glenn was coming in this coming Sunday with the New York Jets, got a feeling it wouldn't be boos 100%. I think it would actually be like Ryan just alluded to, applause until the game started.
Yeah, I think it would be like Gleyber Torres playing in front of the Yankees from the other night. I think it's twofold, and then I'm anxious to get Ryan and Kool-Aid's thoughts. Yeah. I think it's twofold. First, Ben Johnson is kind of snarky.
Yeah.
And I think it didn't help him. I don't care that he went to Chicago. I really don't. I mean, you take the opportunity that is best for you and your family. Anybody who says they wouldn't do it is full of crap, okay? He turned down jobs, if you recall. I think he said no to Washington because he said, they're baseball guys, or basketball guys, which is a stupid thing to do publicly or even privately. But he turned them down. He turned down Carolina. He wanted the right opportunity. What's the right opportunity? Just because it's your first opportunity to go be a head coach doesn't mean it's the right opportunity to be a head coach. There's plenty of guys who've been out there and said, you know what? I don't think so. There's plenty of players who've done the same thing. There's people you and I know, friends of ours or acquaintances in general, who've decided to take jobs based on money, location, opportunity, right? Do I have a chance to rise in this company? So I don't blame him for taking the Chicago gig one bit. I think he lost me when some of his snarky comments left a trail back to Detroit. And I think with Aaron Glenn, because, let's face it, he played in the league for a long time. He was well respected. He talks like we do. He does. He talks like he's a banty rooster who wants the most out of his team, and he has basically said when he first got to New York, this isn't going to fly. Now, I don't like the way he handled the Aaron Rodgers thing. I think that was Bush League. But and I'm not a big guy who believes in booing ex-coaches or athletes, especially if they were here. He brought us great success. He brought a smile to our face. He gave us confidence. He did a lot of thrilling things here. I wish him, for the most part, pretty well. I just want Detroit to beat the hell out of his team on Sunday and every time they play him. So it's a long-winded answer, but I think he's a little snarky, and I think he hurt himself when he went to Chicago and said some things that we took as detrimental to the character of some of the players he coached.
Yeah, I'd say for the fans, not me, but I'm saying for the fans, it's mainly because he went to an in-division rival. I think that's the main reason. But I also think it could be a factor of we had such a good thing going with the offense the last 2 years. They're sad that it's not going to be it's uncharted territories for what the offense is going to look like now without Ben Johnson. We were so consistent with him for the last 2 years, and now that they don't have him anymore, it might be a little bit of what's our offense going to look like? We don't know what their offense is going to look like. Where going into last season, there was kind of like you kind of expected what the offense was going to do, but I think the main reason for sure is definitely he's in the division still, and it could quite possibly be he poses a threat to them as well with how good he was at the play calling last year. And I think fans do think that he didn't coach and fully prepare for the Commanders game. I think that's still dumb, personally. I think he prepared fine, but I think that's the reason.
And I think whether he prepared or not, just seeing the performance, that matters too. The same thing is also affecting Jared Goff. And people saw Aaron Glenn and his defense overcome, all of those injuries last year to the tune of still being serviceable. And I thought that when you get into your A, your B, your C, that to me is what helps. And then obviously being within the division, that's always going to get people's blood boiling. So now you got a coach who, like Ryan said, some fans, for better or worse, they don't know how much he was really dialed in mentally. And then
what do you mean? What do you mean? Why would he be dialed in?
With the Commanders game, they thought that he had his mindset in interviews and such that he took. Where you had other coaches, though, during the same time, the assistant coaches from the Commanders, they declined their interviews during that time. They said that they had other business. So just to be fair, that juxtaposition was out there, and fans thought if your window is Super Bowl, you're getting a head coaching job.
I know it is, but do you honestly think that this is a guy who's like, you know what? I'm not studying for the test today because I've got a date with a girl.
No, it's
I mean,
just
come
what
on.
fans.
We've got to use some common sense.
But it's also just talking about your difference between fans and your comment. Like, that's what fans feel. 100%.
And I get the optics. We go 100% optics when we talk Matt Patricia. I want optics out of somebody who knows he's getting head coach, whether it's fans in general or not. That's what I said at the end of it. If they succeeded, I think people would be able to stomach a little bit better. But then you also look at the way they exited. I thought that Aaron Glenn's exit, it was a little less. Ben Johnson and the fanfare around his introduction with Chicago, and this is where I've always wanted to be, and blah, blah, blah. Those things I can understand because we were just listening to Ben Johnson tell us those same things as Detroit fans. We buy in hook, line, and sinker, whether
not as a head
it's
coach.
right or not.
Not as a head coach, he wasn't, though. I mean, for his role.
My thoughts are this. This is where it starts for me as it relates to Ben Johnson. Going into the season last year, he kept bringing up the fact that he turned down those 2 head coaching jobs. Like, he brought up the fact continuously about the Commanders, and it wasn't just people asking questions and so he happened to speak on it. This was him talking up. I saw a couple interviews where he brought it up first. When I interviewed with the Commanders, it just wasn't the right gig. Sir, it's 6 weeks of the season. Like, you're in week 6 of this current season. Why do I care about the interviews that you had in the offseason? So I didn't like that. I didn't hold it against him. I just paid attention. Sure. I did not like it at all. Yeah. Now you get to the season, you get to the end, and everybody's like, oh, man, he wasn't dialed in. He was interviewing. He was going here and he was going there. Newsflash. That's how the NFL operates. Mm-hmm. At the end of the season, this is your window to interview with other franchises. That's the same window AG took. It's the same window Ben Johnson took. It's the same window that Dan Quinn took the year before. It's the insert coach that has a new job. Kevin O'Connell, when he was with the Rams.
There was a Commanders coach, though, who decided, I'm turning it down. And that's what made fans mad, that you lost to that team whose assistant coach said, I'm actually dialed in here. Not that Ben Johnson wasn't, but that's what a lot of people pulled at.
Right, 100%. Could care less about that. My thing was more so that he just kept bringing it up. Now you get to the end of the season, like I said, this is a part of it. And now they want to blame Ben Johnson for that game. Did Ben Johnson throw 4 interceptions and fumble the ball? Did he do that? Did he do that?
No.
And then you also want to make it you want to make it Dan Campbell's offense when things go, oh, well, it's Dan Campbell's offense anyway. Good riddance to him. Well, Dan Campbell played you in the Washington Commanders game if you feel that way. Yeah. Moving past that, because that's
the year before to the
and
NFC
the year before me,
Championship.
exactly. That doesn't bother me. That didn't bother me.
Okay.
It was when he started making little comments to what you alluded to. The trail got back to Penei Sewell. Trail got back to Jared Goff. Trail got back to Dan Campbell and some of the things and some of the little jokes and things. They were jokes, but this is called in-house. Anybody love The Godfather?
Yeah.
What does he always says? You never talk about family business outside the family. When you're on text
Fredo, don't do that.
When you're on text chains with Dan Campbell, or when you guys see each other, or you make little small talk with St. Brown and all those things, that's fun. You guys can crack all the jokes you want to. You're in Chicago, they're in Detroit, but you guys will still have some type of rapport. But you said those things publicly on purpose, and they got back to us. And then you look stupid when you bought out Matt LaFleur's, and he was like, who? I never heard of this dude.
Right.
Like, that's when you start to realize when Amon-Ra St. Brown makes that comment on the podcast, like, you ain't like that. You're acting.
Yeah.
I tend to agree with Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Yeah.
Like,
You're
he's
fake. You're
acting.
fake.
He's
telling
getting
you
his
you're fake.
He's getting this Brian Kelly on. What, family? He's getting that Brian Kelly on, and I don't like fake people. So now you take it back to the comments that you kept bringing up because you wanted people to know, I'm like that. I'm turning down jobs. I'm turning down the Commander's job, this, that, and third.
I'm a wanted man.
That's why they bust your ass in the playoffs. Yeah. But I don't care about him going to the Chicago Bears. They had Caleb Williams, who was a first-round quarterback, drafted after winning the Heisman Trophy 2 years prior to that. You have DJ Moore, Rome Odunze. You bring all of these things that they had. It's
good defense.
Really good defense. In fact, Detroit knows about that defense because 2 years ago that defense beat Detroit.
Yeah.
So you have all this at your disposal, and you turn down some gigs, and now you have this opportunity. This is the opportunity you want. I don't like what happened after he left. He turned into that after he left.
I agree.
The fake guy. So stop talking about the Commanders' loss. Stop talking about the interview process. The real reason why you guys hate him is because you were scared.
Exactly.
The real reason why Lions fans don't like him is because you were scared.
Like
all that success that you had, and rightfully so.
It's interesting.
The Lions or the NFL had never seen some of the offensive things that Ben Johnson has done in the last 3 years. It's facts. It is in black and white. And you knew that he's going over to this team that has a good defense, and maybe he was the guy that could turn this Chicago Bears franchise around. That's why they hate him, because they're scared. and then they saw the game this past Sunday.
That's a great point.
They're like, oh, you know what? Well, we're going to beat him. It's not that big a deal.
Yeah.
They were scared that Ben Johnson was going to go there and do the same things that he done here with Detroit, have that type of success. Give the man his credit and move on.
I never looked at it that way. Thanks. We needed that. No, I'm serious. We needed that. Here's the thing I would say when people say, oh, he went to the Bears in division. So Chicago should hate David Montgomery, right? That's number one. Green Bay should hate T.J. Lang, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Lifelongers, not necessarily. I think you give your career. I think that's a little bit different.
I see. So it's players. It's different with players.
I do. No. I don't.
So
not
Dennis
players.
Rodman. Should we hate Dennis Rodman? He went to Chicago, John Sally went to Chicago.
I hated it.
Okay. But no, you hated it. But did you boo him?
Me, yes.
Okay.
If they got another jersey, I booed them.
As long as you're consistent with it.
Some trash
Players are going to go and do what they think is best for them and their career. I don't blame them one bit. Okay? They're going to a lot of times chase the money or they're chasing the ring. Coaches are going to do the same damn thing. Period. And I hate to tell people this, for the most part, this is a broad brush, most people would do the same thing in their careers.
Now, I will say this though. I will add this caveat because I know some Lion fans are out there like, Braylon, you're not being 1,000% factual about that game. So here we go. Yes, I cannot believe that he started David Montgomery coming off a knee injury in which they said he may need surgery when he first got injured. And now all of a sudden he's good enough to start over Jahmyr Gibbs, the hottest player in the NFL, not named 2-6 from the Philadelphia Eagles. And then, oh, by the way, yes, the Jameson pass play, I don't get mad at it in the sense that this play would have turned the game around. Game's over. At that point, the game is over. I'm mad that they said of all the people to throw a pass, whether it was Penei Sewell, whether it was Amon-Ra St. Brown, whether it was Jahmyr Gibbs, Dave Montgomery, of all the guys that they tried out, the Detroit Lions players, they had a consensus. Just what moves? Don't throw the ball to Stone Hands, necessary roughness. Don't let J-Mo be the quarterback.
Yeah.
And what did he do? So those two things I can understand.
His first throw as a member of the National Football
And
League.
it better be his last throw. I can see those two plays as people being pissed off. Yes, I was pissed off too. Fair.
How about the fact that, and again, what Ben Johnson did here deserves applause.
Yeah.
Because
facts.
He was really good. They were really fun to watch, and I hope it stays that way. I really do. But the fact that people are saying that he was flirting with Chicago. If he doesn't flirt with them and he misses the opportunity to interview and he's back, like
he was the only person getting that job. I'm convinced that.
Okay. You can
Bears.
be convinced of it all you can be convinced of it all you want.
Years.
You can be convinced of it all you want, but if you're in the situation, you don't want to miss the opportunity either. And again, I'm sounding like I'm making an apology for him, and I'm not because I can't. I've already told you I want them to beat the hell out of Chicago.
I think it's fair and balanced takes. I do. Like, I feel the way that I do, but I understand exactly where Bray's coming from. I understand where you're coming from, and ultimately, I think that people are just hurt because of the way it ended. If we apply what we do to Jared Goff, what have you done for me last or lately? Yeah. You have to apply that to Ben Johnson, who called probably one of his worst games of the season after the first few weeks of the season. In the playoffs where it mattered most, where everybody says Super Bowl or bust. And if he's walking out that door and Aaron Glenn is walking out that door and you might lose players, it wasn't just him. I will take this part of the bait, Bray. Yeah. We were scared, but it wasn't because all of our eggs were in the Ben Johnson basket. The offense was a part of it that I actually was more confident about. It was a defensive side that I was wondering. I believe in Calvin Shepard, but we have a lot of injuries, and people that we think are our dogs are coming back from injury, whereas the offensive side, we got all pros walking around, talking big. Yeah, I thought that Jared Goff was going to be a guy, and I still do, who can elevate this even without Ben Johnson here.
But my issue with that is, like, he called one of his worst games. Perhaps he did. I know they scored 30 points, which some of it was at the end. So, I mean, we'll probably put an asterisk next to it. And they gave up 45. Now, a lot of that is because of the turnovers. I understand that, okay? But a lot of times when we talk about football and we talk about the ultimate team sport, and we're always saying, you got to pick me up, okay? Pitcher gives up a home run, offense pick me up. Offense is struggling to score, pitcher pick me up, get those guys out 1, 2, 3. Football's no different, okay? I don't recall anybody saying anything that when Aaron Glenn left about this. He called the worst game he's ever called as a member of the Lions coaching staff at the worst time. Why? Because he was flirting with the Jets.
I think it matters if you got your dogs or not. I really 100%
so now we're making
do.
excuses.
No,
what
your
we're
personnel matters.
Oh.
We're sitting here talking about that right now with the edges.
We didn't say that against Minnesota. We had no problem with Minnesota. And Minnesota looked pretty good at times during the year with 14 wins, didn't they? We didn't say one thing about that when they gave, 9 points to Minnesota 2 weeks prior to?
The problem is the defense for the Detroit Lions last year, they overachieved for the majority of the year. And the reason why they are allowed to overachieve is because the offense was the best offense in the NFL last year, and they were one of the best offenses in the history of the NFL statistically. That offense covered for that defense ass all season long. All season long. And then when the defense had to make a couple plays in some games, i.e. the Texans game, i.e. the Packers game when they're in Lambeau, i.e. the Vikings game, they made those plays because they didn't have to make too many of them. And then you get to the Washington Commanders game where finally you have so many people injured on the defensive side of the ball that when you get a bad offensive game by Jared Goff, when you get a couple mistakes at the offensive coordinator position by Ben Johnson, now all of a sudden you look bad on that side that's been saving the other side. And now that side's playing terrible because they've got a bunch of guys injured, and this side's playing terrible, and there's no one to save them. Yeah. There's no one to save them. That's what really happened in the Commanders game. Water finally met its level. The offense couldn't be 45 points and Jared Goff be 41 or 42 and have those crazy numbers. He had a bad game. It happens. But the defense had an even worse game. And now you mix them together, you can't win those games. Mm-hmm. Water met its level. That's what happened.
Somebody said in the chat, and rightfully so, Ben Johnson didn't lose that game. Jared Goff lost that game. And Jared Goff says that. So we're holding that game against Ben Johnson, and I at times have done it too, and I'm probably wrong, because of the one play, or two things. Two things.
Easy to blame the guy that's no longer here.
That's right. One is the Jamison Williams pass.
Horrible.
Which I think was horrible. He made the call. I could sit there and say, but the player's got to throw it away, because there's no way an offensive coordinator looks at Jamison Williams, any offensive coordinator, and says, this is going to be your first pass in the NFL. Just squeeze it in there. Yeah. I'll guarantee you, they said, if it's not there, throw the damn thing away.
So I've done 3 reverse passes in the NFL. I've only thrown one of them because exactly what happened. The first time I ran one was in Cleveland. Legitimately, this is what Rob Chudzinski said. If Kellen's not there, throw the ball out of bounds or run and get down, do what you can. That's exactly what happened. Kellen was covered. I said, all right, bet. I got 2 yards on the run. Second time I ran was with the Jets. I saw Jaco down there. I took a chance. I said, I got to try something. Got it down there. Jaco didn't make the play. I'm sorry, Jaco. You know I'm going to blame you. I'm getting my quarterback on, man. The receiver, you got to make it. I was doing that just like you see all the quarterbacks do on the TV screen so they can act like it was not their fault, which it was. So that was on me. And then the other one I threw out of bounds, but the conversation all 3 times with Rob Chudzinski and with Brian Schottenheimer, if the first option, first of all, I'm not a quarterback.
Yeah.
There is no first, let me get to my second read. I didn't get paid to be a quarterback. No. There's one read and there's out of bounds. One read and out of bounds, and that's what I guarantee you Ben Johnson told J-Mo, but he shouldn't have been in that position in the first place. I
don't disagree with that. I'm not exuding any of the Ben Johnson ill will here. Yeah. It should be. But Jamison Williams knew damn well what he was supposed to do, and he still tried to squeeze it in there. That was first play. The other play is David Montgomery. Yeah. Starting him like you and I have talked about this. I do wonder if that's Ben Johnson or Dan Campbell. Dan Campbell had to know that was taking place too. The head coach is responsible for some things, right?
He has to okay it.
He has to okay it. So we are immediately to blame. And I said that too. I'm immediate to blame Ben Johnson, and I got to remember that Dan Campbell probably had something to do with that too and thought it was the right play as well.
But if I'm going to blame Dan Campbell for anything, then I'm going to definitely make sure that Ben Johnson's getting some blame too. That's all I'm saying. I'm not one of the fans that
I don't disagree with you, Kool-Aid.
Hates Ben Johnson to the degrees that others do, but I'm definitely going to have my fun with the guy who's now in division, a guy who we had some success with, a guy who wants to tear our heads off too. He wants to win this thing, and
of course he does. He wants to win every game.
Why shouldn't he? And so I do think that every little bit of bulletin board material that fans take, I'm not going to douse the ones that go a little bit overboard or extreme with the hate of Ben Johnson, because we're told
but we brought up Ben Johnson. We did not bring up when we brought that part of it up. Yeah. We brought up Ben Johnson, and we didn't bring up Dan Campbell. And the reason we brought up Ben Johnson is because he left, and the reason we didn't bring up Dan Campbell is because he's still here.
And speaking of Dan Campbell and speaking of bulletin board material, look, what he did yesterday, this is called bulletin board material. You're already facing a head coach that knows you better than you know yourself. Like, you're already facing a guy in Ben Johnson that knows this team. And I'm not just talking about the offense and what you guys do. He knows your defense. He had to play against that defense every day for the better part of the last 3 years. He knows where you're weak, which is a lot of places. It's called a spade of play. He knows the players. You know how many times he's been in practice? One of the first things you do as an offensive coordinator when you're assessing your team, you know, if I was a defensive coordinator playing against my team, like, what would I do? Oh, yeah, I would double Amon-Ra here in the slot. You know what I'm saying? I would allow J-Mo on the outside to do this. I would put two in. These are the things that you do. He's been playing this game for 3 years, and now he actually has an opportunity to play this game with the defense against the Lions at home. Watch out. Dan made that comment, and I'm not going to lie, it's going to be hell to pay. I'm not saying they're going to lose, but it's going to be hell to pay because you know he has something for the Detroit Lions. He has been working on this game plan since when he first got to Chicago. He's been working on that game plan, so it's going to be interesting.